Christians, this person here says that if my theory is correct, then there would be no sin because God is not going to force someone to sin. Half the things this person says I don't make any sense at all. But let's deal with this last part here. God is not going to force someone to sin. So this is true. One of the few true things this person has said. God does not force anyone to sin. Let me make it clear again to everyone who is listening. God will not force anyone to sin. God cannot and would not force anyone to sin. However, let me tell you what God does do. Because what God does do with reference to man's sin very often is the case of what he does not do. Let me explain what I mean. God does not have to force any man to sin. All God has to do is let him alone. All God has to do is let them alone. The unbelieving who perishes in their sin, they perish because of their sin, but they are not saved because God chose not to intervene. He let them have their way. He let them have their free will, as you, my friend, call it. God lets people go their own way. He is under no obligation to step in and to interrupt man's sinful downfall. He's not obligated to intervene. That's why when he does intervene, it is called grace. And this is why that me and maybe even you, my friend, and all Christians, we have to be subdued, stopped in our tracks. We know by practical experience that God stopped us from going down the path that we were going down. I know that. I know that. I know how great my sin was and is. I know. This is why I'm so adamant about the fact that God has to step in and stop me dead in my tracks if I'm going to be a believer. He intervenes by grace. Because if he did not, I will continue going down the path of sin, which God does not have to force me to do. All he has to do is leave me alone. The worst things, the worst words that you could ever hear Christ give his messengers with respect to those who are lost is to leave them alone.